Welcome along to another edition of Matchbook's NFL podcast. Week 9 is shaping up to be a good one, but we're recording on Wednesday afternoon. There's breaking news all over the NFL landscape, but we will do our very best to guide you in the way of hopefully some winners. Joined as ever by Dinsick and Fabian Sommer. Rob is away this week, but fair enough, he'll be back next week. Just a very busy man today. Drew, last week, best bets, buddy. I don't know how we didn't get the clean sweep here with the Dolphins. That was one of those ones that I kind of just put away and said, all right, that's okay. That's in the book. We leave it there. It was the right side, though, wasn't it? 13.5? And it was even close higher than that.
Oh, absolutely it was. And really the only way that doesn't come through, it was like watching a car accident at the end of that game. Because like the only way that this doesn't have a chance is if they turn it over and they run it back almost for a touchdown and then eat the rest of the clock and score a touchdown. And that's exactly how it played out. So that was absolutely brutal. But ultimately, I would play it again at that price. I think, the Dolphins don't belong in the same discussion as the Jaguars. And in fact, little teaser, when we get to my favorite look of the day, I think it actually is somewhat reflecting that particular game and this particular market.
Suma, Colts, Titans. Let's give Rob his props too. He went against the Tide there small, but he took the Panthers +3. That was a great look as well from Rob. But Suma, to you, over 50.5 Colts, Titans, never in doubt, really, sir.
Never in doubt.
Until it was in doubt at the end where Carson Wentz was inside in the end zone, and you're like, please don't take the sack, don't take the safety, and land on 50 and kill all of us.
And I gotta be honest, I think it was 24-21 with like 12 or 13 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. And I thought, man, if the Titans don't get a field goal here and we get only a field goal from the Colts to make it 27-21, that could get ugly in the end. But as soon as the Titans kicked the damn field goal, that was over.
Yeah, and look, you know what? This is a sport that generally, and Drew, you can definitely speak to this. You could be on tilt a lot, and it's safe for gambling week here in the UK and Ireland from the 1st to 7th of November. And I suppose, look, we talk about this every year, and I don't want to ever come across in any way condescending and whatnot. But I think it's good to remind ourselves that this is a fun recreation. You know, if we were all professional bettors, we probably wouldn't be here. Let's be honest about this. This is just a fun recreation. Only spend what you can afford. Set your limits, and always remember that friends and family are most important. And Drew, you know, this sport in general, we love it and hate it in equal measures each week. But you know, you've been in the back of this. Suma has. I have. We've been in the back of some bad beats. It's important not to go chasing your losses.
That's right. And particularly for those of you who love betting the NFL schedule is set up in a way that especially preys on those emotional reactions because you have the standalone game at the end of Sunday. You have the standalone game on Monday, and realistically, if you wake up on Monday and you're looking at your results from the weekend and you're deciding, hey, I'm going to make a play on tonight's game to try to get back my losses, or even if you won and you want, I'm going to double down and, get to, do even better. The likelihood that you have an edge on day of NFL is virtually zero, unless you are the king market maker for the NFL. You should not be betting on day of. And for those reasons, safer gambling for me in the NFL means not placing wagers on the day of.
Yeah. Fair enough. And if you want further details on that, guys, visit safergamblinguk.org. There's lots of helpful and useful tools to maybe manage. If you're having any difficulty with this, please do reach out to those guys and they will most certainly help you. So we're doing 4 games today. We're going to rattle through it because we're obviously minus one voice today. We're doing Titans, Rams, Cardinals, 49ers, Vikings, Ravens, Browns, Bengals, and we have 2 or 3 other selections then, or any other bet sections and best bets, of course. So let's start. Titans, Rams, Sunday Night Football. Good game scheduled in LA. Minus Derrick Henry now, Titans, but I think that line has kind of gone with the Rams. Rams have been so good of late. Let's take a look at the betting. And Joe, I'll come to you first for this one. But as we have it on Matchbook.com, the money line 1.31, you can back the Rams. The Titans are 4.0, it's 3-1 in fractional terms. The Titans getting a 7.5 point start on the main handicap line. Obviously a very key number in the NFL. Just those leave money at 1.99. 53.5 is the total. I think you can kind of make a case here for Tennessee at that number. It's a lot of points, Drew, no?
It is a lot of points, and in fact, it is. I think you specifically have to look at this through the lens of what happened to this market when the news came out that Derrick Henry was going to be unavailable. This was expected to be a 6. They moved out to 6.5. The Rams looked like the hot side. It gets bet across 7 on the news of Derrick Henry. And while there's been a lot of reaction in the media, particularly on Monday, of no running back means more to his team than Derrick Henry, and no player means more. Well, no. Aaron Rodgers means more to the Packers than Derrick Henry, I promise you. But realistically, the Derrick Henry news probably shouldn't have moved this across 7, maybe out to 7, in my opinion, in terms of what he's worth to this team, and particularly in a game where they're dogs. We're expecting a negative game state here for the Titans, where they're going to have to pass. And Derrick Henry is not really adding that element of doing much in the screen game for them, at least this season. Jeremy McNichols has been much more effective in that role for the Titans this season. And if you haven't learned anything about the Titans this year, I will spill the beans here. I will give you the secret. AJ Brown is the straw that stirs the drink for this team. 100%. If you look at the games where he was healthy and he was effective, particularly in his route running across the middle of the field, the Titans offense is an absolute juggernaut. And you take the other games where he was either unhealthy or out of the game, and they really, really struggled to move the ball. And, all this team has done is questions are asked of them against the Chiefs, they answer. Asked against the Bills, they answer. And now, they have a second matchup against the Colts, opportunity to put away the division, they answer. And so the fact that they continue to get these huge spreads, I think is something that you have to really take a serious look at. And this Rams team is coming off of 3 games where they beat up on the absolute dregs of the NFL. Huge step up in competition for them. However, they are one of the better coach teams in the NFL. Stafford is playing at an absolutely outstanding level right now. If you check out his EPA per play numbers, it is like, I didn't know this was possible over this large of a sample, but he's doing it. And a ton of it is, you're getting just superlative route running and superlative scheme from McVay with what he's doing with Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods, and Van Jefferson. It's awesome to watch. It's a dynamic passing offense, and they're going up against a weak passing defense for the Titans. So I think this game sets up fairly well for an overlook. I think I'm leaning Titans. I'm leaning over. I think there's a case to be made that we go to the war with Titans team total over here. Realistically, on the market, we're seeing 22.5. So the fact that we're under 23, which is a quasi key team total, and the fact that the Titans are going up against the Rams defense is not that impressive. I think it's worth firing on a little Titans team total over.
Suma, you're thinking over as well. Potential points there, a lot of them.
Yeah, I haven't bet that game yet. I'm still trying to gain any information on Julio Jones. He was out last week, could be back this week. I think one of the important factors when Jalen Ramsey gets put on AJ Brown. But in general, I have to agree with Drew wholeheartedly here. I mean, we talk about Matthew Stafford and that amazing Rams offense, and everything about that is true. Stafford is one of the MVP contenders right now. That offense is absolutely rolling, and they should have no issue moving the ball against the Titans secondary. While the only, let's say, medium strength of Titans with their front four gets negated by that Rams offensive line. But I think after recent results, we aren't talking enough about that Rams defense that, in my opinion, is not really good and not on the level of 2020. I mean, over the past 4 games they've played against the Seahawks, where Russell Wilson got injured, I think, early in the third quarter. The New York Giants without any wide receivers. The Detroit Lions and the Houston Texans that were shut out until the Rams had their backups playing late in the game. But I have them with the 6th easiest schedule overall of opposing passing offenses. The Buccaneers lost Gronk. They were without Antonio Brown. They scored 24 points. Cardinals scored in the 30s against them. I think Julio Jones matters in that game, in my opinion, because you still have Jalen Ramsey on the other side. They got Von Miller. I think he should be good to go this week. But if the Titans have Julio Jones and AJ Brown in, I think they can get some points on the board, and that 53.5 should be a good look.
Yeah, I like it. I won't turn anyone off Drew's team total there, but because we won't have that up until the day of the game, or probably on the Saturday, I don't want to be kind of locking in a selection if people can't get their money down. And as Drew said, you're better off betting these on a Wednesday than a Sunday morning.
It'll be 23 by the day of, so some of the value will be gone. Yeah.
All right, 53.5 is 1.94. So let's take that one, and we'll move on. Should be a good one in LA on Sunday night. The next game is a tricky one because we're talking about the Cardinals and 49ers, and look, we're thinking Kyler Murray is a go. This game is semi off the board of Matchbook at the moment. It's actually more or less a pick-up 1.95 on either side. But Suma, in terms of Kyler Murray, obviously, look, that's built into the price. And it's kind of one of those ones where he's playing, but we don't know how effective he will be. In the kind of medium to long term, and we've discussed this before in previous weeks, if this guy gets banged up, this is a different offense.
Yeah, exactly. We saw it last year when he was dealing with that injury, and all of a sudden you take away a large part of that element of Kyler Murray running around and scrambling around, and also some designed runs, and all of a sudden that offense gets less productive because defenses don't have to account for all the elements that Kyler Murray and that offense provides to them. This week, I just saw that he was not at the open part of practice to the media today, so he could likely end up as DNP today. The line is off the board at, I think, almost every book right now, so it's screaming that there might be something in the making. Earlier this week, the line went from, I think it was San Francisco +3, -120 at most books. Then it got bet down at some outlets, and then it got completely taken off the board. So that's kind of indicating that Kyler Murray is either not 100% or he might not play at all. He had that ankle sprain at the end of the Packers game. So we will probably find out in the next couple of days. But let's just assume that Kyler Murray is going to play and might not be 100% healthy. So even with Kyler Murray, I liked the San Francisco 49ers early in the week at those market prices because I think it's a fantastic matchup for them. We just saw on Thursday night that the Cardinals defense cannot stop the run to save their lives. JJ Watt is a big loss because all those other guys really struggle for the most part in that front seven when it comes to run blocking. And in that game against the Packers, it wasn't, or let's say I didn't have the impression that the Packers faced a lot of light boxes. So the Cardinals tried to stop the run, but they failed. They couldn't bring AJ Dillon down. And now they get to play against a 49ers offense that likes to run the ball against one of the best run designer play callers in the league. And I think that the Cardinals defense is kind of equal to the Bears defense in that they have some pieces along their front seven, some holes in the secondary, and the 49ers were able to move the ball at will on the Bears defense starting, I think, late in the second quarter. So I really like that matchup for the 49ers. They're getting most likely George Kittle back, very important for the run game, very important in the receiving game. Deebo Samuel is on a heater. And I just don't think that the Cardinals defense matches up well. And that would automatically force Kyler Murray to probably score a ton of points in that one. And if he's not 100% healthy, that would make it very tough on them. In the first game, it was Trey Lance. It was no George Kittle. The 49ers defense had some answers for Kyler Murray in that game. They held them to 17 points. And on the other side, I think lots of sharp dudes had 49ers at +4.5 to +6. I think that was absolutely the right bet. They got really unlucky in the end. I think the Niners were 1 of 5 on 4th down or something. There are lots of drives into Cardinals territory, but they just stalled. I think this is going to be a completely different game, and I really like the 49ers in that matchup. We will see where it reopens.
That was your best bet of the week too, Drew. Dinsick is bringing back all those painful fourth down and goal, all those ones. They were just so tough ones.
God.
But Drew, what are you making of this one? I mean, look, Suma, you gave out the Packers plus 6.5 as a late player last week on your Slack channel. So it was a terrific look. Enough red flags there for you with the Cardinals after that one, Drew. And it's not even just that. It's like we said, this Kyler Murray thing. It's huge. It's like, I know we're stating the obvious with a quarterback, but what he does as a mobile quarterback in comparison to just sitting there in the pocket, there's a big difference there.
Yeah, if you don't already know, the backup for Kyler Murray is Colt McCoy. And that is a big downgrade.
I don't, but there's worse backups out there.
There's worse backups out there. Yeah. I guess in the pantheon of MVP caliber quarterbacks who may be missing this week, we at least know how to rate Colt McCoy, whereas I don't know if we have any idea how to come up with a fair price for Jordan Love, but that's a different conversation. I would expect Kyler Murray plays and is limited. I've heard he's been walking around in a boot at the facility. I've heard that he is very, this is a non-trivial ankle injury he's dealing with. And if he goes, he's going to be on a lot of pain medicine. And I imagine his mobility is going to be massively impacted, which is going to be a problem because Kyler Murray has lived on a razor's edge against this Niners defense every single time he goes out there and plays them. And if he is a step slower, that is a problem. I think this Niners are starting to kind of peak and become the team that we expected. I like what I saw from them last week against the Bears. That was a really cool kind of come together and save our season kind of a performance, particularly, Jimmy Garoppolo playing with a little confidence, finally putting his head down, getting into the end zone a couple times. Suma's absolutely right. The last matchup, I thought the Niners outplayed the Cardinals despite losing by 7 points. Obviously, if they get that goal line touchdown, it's a different game. If the refs call holding on the Cardinals in the end zone, I at least got my cover, but that's beside the point. I'm over it. We are moving. We're on to week 9. And yes, this is a Niners or pass, pretty obviously in my mind. I think the Niners have a really nice couple of weeks here, honestly. They get the Rams next week, and what is probably maybe my favorite matchup on the board for week 10. And I think I had hoped to get a Niners plus 3.5 here, which was the look ahead last week. I was kind of like, I was like, if they show us anything against Chicago, I'm going to be all over that number. Ultimately, the injury to Kyler Murray made that more complicated. It opened on the other side of 3. But with the limited Kyler Murray, with Hopkins potentially unlikely as well, this is a very, very clear and obvious spot to back the 49ers, in my opinion. So I will take the Niners on the money line at any price. My fare here in terms of a money line price is Niners minus 135. So I would take anything better than that. Once you start sort of see an opening market come up, I would lay anything up to about minus 2.5 for San Francisco here. I think they get the win. And realistically, this might not be close.
All right, well, there's 1.93 available at matchbook.com now, so I think that's obviously well shorter than minus 1.9 or minus 135, as you mentioned. So, yeah, let's put that in at 1.95, and we're expecting Kyler Murray to play, but how good he will be and how effective he will be. And anyway, like you said, Drew, even if full and healthy, Kyler Murray has struggled against this defense in the past. So, yeah, like that one. 49ers money line. And don't forget, guys, if we're rattling through a few of these picks, check out insights.matchbook.com about 2 or 3 hours after recording on Wednesday afternoon, and a full recap of those bets will be there. Vikings Ravens is the next game, and Drew, I'll start with you on this one. Is there any more team more annoying than, and this is saying something, more annoying than the Minnesota Vikings? They're a head scratcher, absolute head scratcher. I'll let you answer that question second, but let's take a look at the betting first of all. The Minnesota Vikings 3.15, Baltimore Ravens 1.41, Vikings getting 6 points in the main handicap line at 1.92, and 50 is the total. And Drew, yeah, they are pretty head-scratching, hair-pulling, just excruciating team.
They are. And it's actually very reminiscent of the Seahawks from years past, where it was like, this offense is good. They have amazing playmakers. They have a quarterback who can push the ball down the field and really hurt teams and hurt them fast. They can come back when they're down. This is a team that on paper should be really scary and dynamic and in the mix for a playoff spot in a weak, the weak bottom half of the NFC. Yet they're not. They managed to find ways to lose, and it is frustrating. And if you backed them last week, you got the best of the number. I feel for you. Like, that was absolutely not a fair result in terms of the way that played out. If you got them at plus money on the money line and you see that close 4.5, whatever the close was, you made a good bet. I would still do it again. But ultimately, yeah, the the Vikings have a problem of playing down to their opponent, and they have a problem in this matchup in that they're coming in without Danielle Hunter. So realistically, there is going to be no pass rush here. That is going to put a premium on the Vikings to score. I think they come in knowing that they're going to have to be a little bit more aggressive offensively. I think the echoes and the media cycle around Zimmer this week in the preparation for this game and all the talking points he's had, I think the urgency, the save our season kind of a mentality has taken a little bit of a hold in that locker room, and you're going to get an honest effort out of the Vikings this week. We've seen a number of teams who are playing relatively well, but who are beat up, come out of the bye a little bit, a little slow, for lack of a better word. And I'm eyeing a Vikings first half number here. I think they're going to be in this game early. But I think, this is all kind of about the price. Like right now you can get Vikings plus 3.5 for the first half. I think that's a fair play. I think Vikings money line first half is an interesting look as well. But for the full game spread, my fare here is Minnesota 4.5. So I would love to get this number out to 6 and grab Vikings. If that does not manifest a flat 6, right now it's getting close. If we don't get a flat 6, then I would advocate for an over 49.5 here. I think realistically,
I can give you a flat 6 now at 1.93. I know it's saying 5.5 there on the board, but it's you can get a flat 6 at 1.93.
Well, I'll see what Suma has to say here, because I at a flat 6, I'm about the same edge as I am on over 49.5. So it's kind of up for debate which way to attack this one. I do think Baltimore has a number of decent matchups, with their offense against Minnesota's defense, particularly if Minnesota can get out to a strong start, potentially a halftime lead here. Baltimore in comeback mode intrigues me against this Minnesota defense. So I think both the Minnesota side and the over are fair plays right now.
Yeah, and Suma, let's pick that up. So because we were just chatting about it there, it was 5.5 about maybe 10-15 minutes ago. It's gone to 6. Is that something that would kind of catch your attention there? Because I do know that you probably do like the over here in this one as well.
Yeah, to be honest, I think that Vikings catching 6 might be some sort of overreaction. I mean, before the bye week, the Ravens hammered the Chargers. Then Vikings looked very bad on Sunday Night Football against a backup quarterback. But we have talked about some of the Vikings' offensive issues on this show already. I mean, the Vikings offense, even though Kirk Cousins is playing a very good season, they pretend like he isn't. So they always come up with that kind of stupid play calling. Against the Cowboys early in the game, they actually tried to hit some deep shots, but it just didn't work out. Kirk Cousins was forced to take some checkdowns. They were 1 of 13 on third down. So I think overall it was just some sort of stinker of the game. I think that this offense is capable, especially the passing offense, capable of doing a lot more. But I also think that the Ravens defense suits Kirk Cousins and the Vikings offense a little bit better, because the Ravens are a heavy blitzing defense. They have scaled back their blitz rate because they don't have Marcus Peters and let's say, still functioning Jimmy Smith this year. So Rick Martinell's already scaled back that blitz rate, but they still have the, I think, 4th highest blitz rate in the league. But when they blitz, they give up 0.22 EPA per play, which is the 5th worst number in the league. So their defense wants to blitz and leave those cornerbacks on an island, but those cornerbacks next to Marlon Humphrey are Tavon Young and Anthony Everett. And we saw it against the Bengals. Joe Burrow is fantastic against the blitz this year, carved them up. Kirk Cousins is very good against those single high coverages, cover 1, cover 3. He's one of the most efficient passers against those coverages since the start of 2020, and he excels against the blitz this year. He has a passing grade of over 90, the same as the Joe Burrow range against the blitz this year. So I think that the Ravens defense presents a very good matchup. They've also looked kind of bad against zone ones. The Vikings are a zone 1 scheme. The Bengals are also a zone 1 scheme, ran for 0.2 EPA per rush on early downs against the Ravens 2 or 3 weeks ago. So I think this is a very good matchup for the Vikings offense, and I wouldn't overreact too much to that Sunday night football game. But on the other side, as Drew has mentioned, no Daniel Hunter, maybe still no Michael Pierce. At the nose tackle position, no Patrick Peterson. The Vikings defense has been playing very good this year, actually. But there are some tough injuries. Lamar Jackson might get Sammy Watkins back. He might get Nick Boyle back, which is a very underrated piece of their offense because Nick Boyle is a superb run blocker. So, I really like those looks from Drew.
Yeah, and look, they're 1.95 now. I gave you 1.93 earlier, Drew. So I say if we hang around for another half an hour, we might get a 6.5. I don't know the way the market is going at the moment, but we can't do that. So we're going to take the Vikings +6 here at 1.95. Again, infuriating as they are, this is probably just a good spot, and that's both NFL betting is playing the spot. Browns Bengals is next up, an interesting one, and this market, as I would suggest, from the look ahead line the last couple of weeks, it's kind of flipped. And Suma, we'll start with you here first for this one. The Browns, you can back on the money line at 2.16. The Bengals at 1.79. The Browns getting a 2-point start at 1.99. And the total is 47. Suma, I know you played the Browns here +3. Obviously, the market is kind of adjusted as being you're not the only one backing them. What are you thinking of the line as we have it right now? Where does the value lie?
So for this game, I'm somewhere around 1.5 points to 2 points. So there's still, I would say, tiny bit of value on the Browns. But at this current number, I would probably take the money line instead of the spread. So I think that it's hard to make a case that the Bengals are significantly better than the Browns. I mean, if we just take a look at some of those efficiency numbers, I find it very hard to install the Bengals as -3-point favorites, which was it early in the week. Disclaimer, I got +3, -120. But I think this is more of a numbers play, and the Browns really suffered from all those injuries. I mean, against the Chargers, which was a game that they could have won, they lost, I think, 3 starting corners before and during the game. They were without Jadeveon Clowney. Then against the Cardinals, they had Nick Chubb injured. They didn't have both starting tackles. Their number 1 wide receiver, which is for this offense, Jarvis Landry and not Odell Beckham, was on IR, I think, for 4 or 5 games, came back against the Broncos. So I think Landry played like 2.5 games this season. They had some injuries on their defense. So I think that everything the Browns have put together thus far has to be adjusted for all those injuries, and they are just getting healthier. Now we have a Odell Beckham drama brewing. I don't really think we should make too much of it. He wasn't at practice today for some personal reasons. Don't know what we are going to witness there later, but even if he's not playing for whatever reason, I don't think.
Who cares? Yeah.
Who cares?
Yeah.
The Browns defense, here's some interesting split. They are 3rd in success rate, the rate of positive EPA plays, but 25th in EPA per play. They've just given up a lot of big plays thus far. Their defense is 16th in serious success rate, which I think mirrors a much better picture of what this defense truly is. They don't blitz a lot. Burrow was much better against teams that went into blitz mode. And I think we also have some 3rd down regression coming. I mean, over the past, I think I checked the past 3 or 4 weeks, the Cleveland Browns are 29th in EPA per play differential on 3rd down or on 3rd and 4th down, and the Bengals are 6th. There's a difference of 1.3 EPA per play for those teams over the past 3 weeks. I would guess that the Cleveland Browns have to be luckier on 3rd down defensively and offensively. The next time they also had, like, I think 2 sick 4th down stops against the Steelers, where Jarvis Landry had a drop, where Nick Chubb couldn't get the 1st down. So on those late downs that Kevin Stefanski goes for it almost every time, they have to regress to the positive side sooner rather than later. And I'm still not completely sold out on the Bengals. I mean, I got terribly proven wrong 2 or 3 weeks ago against the Ravens. I mean, that final score looked a little bit more than it really was because they scored some touchdown in garbage time. Some of these crazy Jamar Chase plays where he broke 3 tackles. But overall, the Bengals had a hard time against Jacksonville. They lost against the Bears. When the Bears had to switch from Dalton to Fields in-game, they lost against the Jets. They really have just that one, let's say, good win against the Ravens, against the Steelers. The Steelers have no offense. TJ Watt was missing in that game. So I'm still not super sold out on the Bengals, and I just simply disagreed with that early market price of 3. Currently, tiny edge toward the Browns. Would probably rather take the money line.
Yeah, Drew, you were on the Jets last week, and you were never really buying the Bengals even after that win against the Ravens. What are you making them in this spot?
That was like the first time all season where there was a huge market overreaction and it actually came to fruition. So I was due with one of those. But yeah, no, I do think the Bengals are still a little bit overrated. And I think Suma's points are all fair. And realistically, let's not forget the Ravens closed 6-point favorites against this team 2 weeks ago. And now we're saying that there is because home field advantage is a point, 2 points max right now. And the swing between, we're saying that the difference between the Ravens and the Browns is a touchdown. Come on. There's no way that this is reflecting a fair, qualification of what the Browns are. And yes, the Browns have not lived up to their potential this season. Yes, Baker Mayfield is dealing with a shoulder injury that's impacting his performance. Yes, they have no chemistry between the quarterback and the wide receivers on this team, and a number of injuries still that they're dealing with, particularly the Conklin one, I think is worth watching. However, all that said, the Conklin injury mattered in that game against the Steelers because he came out in the game. Like if he had been out before the game and they had a plan in place and, everybody knows their roles and responsibilities, I think you see a different performance there. And so I'm not necessarily really ready to hold that loss. The Browns lost against them last week. The Landry fumble, I thought, cost them the win. They were the well-supported side. They got bet out from 3 to 5. There was some pretty significant market momentum for the Browns last week, obviously not rewarded. So the fact that it's come back again this week and we're seeing this move in their direction, I think is correct, directionally correct. This probably should be a pick 'em. But I think the better angle of attack in the betting market here is the over. 46.5 is too low. These two teams played each other twice last year at about similar strength. And those games finished with 65 points and 71 points. And if you remember either of those games, it could have been more. There really was, aggressive play calling, a lot of passing in those games, and really just good game plans for the opposing team's defense and specifically the defensive, personnel and structure. So I think the over is generally a pretty solid look here for this particular game. And realistically, my fare on this is 48. And anything under, the key number of 47 is worth a play to the over, in my opinion. There's enough passing weapons that, the most likely state in this game is something along the lines of the Browns look a little bit more crisp offensively. They put some scoreboard pressure on the Bengals in this game, and then the Bengals are in comeback mode, which at that point, with the weapons they have in the passing game, lends itself to an over. So most fun way to attack this game for me is going to be the over 46.5.
So many quick follow-up on that, the 46.5. I know you've obviously played the Browns +3, and we can't get there at the moment, but what do you think of that 46.5? Drew made a good case.
I don't have any strong opinion. I think an angle for the total would be John Johnson likely out this week for the Browns. Denzel Ward could be back. I think Kevin Stefanski said that he's hopeful. I think that's the area to attack for the Bengals. Just trying to get the ball to those wide receivers against that secondary while evading that pass rush from Clowney and Garrett. But overall, at that number, I don't have any strong opinion.
We could just split it too. Do you like the Browns money line 2.16 Summer, or would you pass?
I would like this. Yes.
Okay, let's take the two of them. So Browns 2.16 and 46.5 over to the over. You can get at 1.91 at matchbook.com. Don't forget insights.matchbook.com. Wednesday evening. All those selections will be up there if you want a recap of the guys' bets. Any other bet section? Drew, Suma, and I think Rob liked this one as well with the Broncos over last week against Washington. That was a weird game. That scoreline was very misleading. That game, in my mind, there's been a lot of points in the first half. I'm not totally sure what happened. But, so 49.5 is the total currently in the Broncos-Cowboys, 1.98 at Matchbook. And you fancy that this will go over?
I do. I think this is, in the same way that the Washington football team manages to take points off the board, the Cowboys have just absolutely been outstanding, finding extra ways to score points. And they're going up against a Broncos team that just moved on from their one talented player that's healthy in the front seven. And the Cowboys, realistically, I don't see the Cowboys punting in this game. If they do, it's going to be because they specifically take their foot off the throttle, but they have not done that in general against teams this season. They score, they continue to score. Yeah. I have the Cowboys getting to 35 points against a limited Broncos team here. Broncos have some good players in the pass defense. I'll completely acknowledge that, but not enough, not enough healthy guys to cover the number of options in the passing game for the Broncos. Expecting Dak to go, expecting Pollard and Zeke Elliott to be the focal point of this offensive approach against the Broncos team that is so limited right now in the front seven. And I would expect that the Broncos themselves going up against the Cowboys team that do not have Diggs available, and with an offensive line that can pass protect against the likes of Gregory and Parsons, this should be a good opportunity for the Broncos to get into the high teens, low 20s. So I make fair total on this one 53. So I'm happy to have an over 49.5, and realistically would play this up to the key of 51.
Good stuff. Just before we get to best bets, I had a question in last night from Russ Yersh, who's an avid follower of the podcast for the last 2 or 3 years. I really like over 41 points in New England at Carolina, and he's keen for your guys' views. So 41 is the total. The Pats at the Panthers. Anyone have any thoughts on that, guys?
I would have liked the opening number. I think 43 or something. I think 41 is fair because, the Panthers are absolutely horrible on offense. Absolutely horrible. I don't care whether it's Sam Darnold or PJ Walker.
He likes the over, Suma. So
and I want to make a counterpoint to that.
Okay.
So at 41, I don't like the under anymore. I would have liked the under at 43, but I will make a case for the under here. Whether it's Darnold or PJ Walker, I just don't see how they put up a lot of points against the Bill Belichick defense. Carolina's offensive line is very bad. They cannot move the ball whatsoever. Christian McCaffrey might be back, but I don't think that 12 dump-offs to your running back will do it in this game. And on the other side, the Panthers have a very intriguing passing defense, but they also faced one of the easiest schedules of opposing run defenses. Patriots will try to pound the ball in this one. They will not try to throw too many balls into Stephon Gilmore. So I can see a game flow where the Pats run the ball a lot, do the occasional dink and dunk game, might punt sometimes, but on the other side, I think they have a very good matchup against the Panthers defense. So I would rather expect a low scoring game than a medium scoring game. I think 41 is the fair market price right now.
Drew, any quick thoughts on that?
If I was going to get involved in anything in this game, I would probably look for Patriots team total over 22.5. I think the Panthers defense is still a little overrated in the market in general. I think the Pats offense is starting to incorporate new wrinkles that, new things every week. They're continuing to evolve. Honestly, I was cold on the Pats last week against the Chargers. Obviously, I played the Chargers. It was not the right side. And I thought the Pats were generally a little overrated going into that game, considering the strength of their schedule. But I completely acknowledge now that they have gotten better every week. And that is sort of a telltale of the Bill Belichick, just what he does as a coach and how the team evolves over the balance of the season. And I think this is probably an AFC playoff team. I don't think they're going to compete for the AFC East with the likes of the Bills. Bills just aren't going to lose enough games And I mean, the Patriots would literally have to beat the Bills twice, I think, to win the AFC East, which is a very, very small likelihood. But the Patriots stealing an AFC wildcard spot, I think, is very real right now.
All right, okay, Drew, if you're listening, or sorry, Russ, if you're listening to it, if you want to back and over, it seems to be the Patriots team total. What did you say, 22 and a half, Drew? It's about right, isn't it? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Suma, your best bet of week 9, and I think Drew's in agreement with you on this one, but take it away about the Chargers.
Yeah, I like the Chargers quite a lot. I mean, there's someone in the market that absolutely pounded the Chargers from +3 flat down to pick'em yesterday. Then we saw a little bit of action back on the Chargers. I took Chargers -1. No clue where that number will ultimately settle with so much support on the Eagles. I think that the initial number of 3 was a fair price on this one. I think, in my opinion, this is some kind of an overreaction to the Eagles maybe beating the shit out of the Lions. But also the Eagles have seen a lot of support in recent weeks. Someone really likes them. But at -1 or even at pick'em, where it was at some point, that tells us that the market believes that the Chargers are only marginally better than the Eagles on a neutral field because home field is not worth much. And I just had to disagree with that. Yeah. I still think that the Chargers are the better team, better coaching staff, better skill position players, better quarterback. I also think they have the slightly better defense. They played one heck of a schedule so far on defense. And the Eagles, against any somewhat decent team, they've been behind by at least 2 scores in the fourth quarter. KC, San Francisco, Las Vegas, Dallas, and Tampa Bay. They were down by at least 2 scores in the fourth quarter before scoring something in garbage time. And I also don't think that their defense has the quality or the scheme to employ something that the Ravens and Patriots defenses did recently with all those disguises. That Eagles defense is rather pretty vanilla, and I would be surprised if they, within 7 days, can completely alter their defensive scheme.
Yeah, and Drew, just to follow up before you get to your best bet, you'd wonder too, like if the Chargers had done a job in the Patriots, what this line would be, and I don't think it'd be this low.
Yeah, no, I thought the Chargers' performance against the Patriots was pretty unimpressive, but ultimately, where they are weak, where they are strong, matches up really well against the Eagles. Eagles not really shown to be able to manifest much of a rushing attack that can hurt the Chargers' poor run fits. And then on the flip side, the Eagles run a very vanilla defense, and it was really sort of the intricacies, I thought, of the Belichick scheme last week that confused the young quarterback in Justin Herbert and really kind of gave the Patriots life in that game. Whereas in this game, I think Herbert absolutely picks this team apart. This is another decent overlook realistically on top of the fact that I agree with Suma, the Chargers of the side.
All right, stay with you. So Drew, what's your best bet of this week? It's Buffalo.
Yeah, I'm going to lay 1 million points here. And I think it's worth laying. I think it's worth laying 1 million points here. This Bills team, they did snap out of a little bit of an offensive funk in the second half against the Miami Dolphins. Miami Dolphins defense played very, very hard and had decent cover corners. And I thought in general, gave you an honest effort against the Bills team and still could not stay inside the number. This Jaguars team is on the verge of quitting. There is absolutely nothing to look at on the defensive side of the football here and say that there are any positive matchups whatsoever for the Bills team. The Bills are going to be able to run at with reckless abandon, and then anything that Josh Allen wants to do to pad his stats to build his MVP case, he can do it. The Bills, defense on the flip side matches up perfectly against a Jaguars offense that doesn't have any nuance, wrinkles, intrigue whatsoever, no identity right now. They're getting virtually nothing out of the young quarterback that they have. Bad spot for the Jags traveling not just to London a couple weeks ago, but now coming back from Seattle. They got their 1 win. I think this is going to be a long middle of the season here for the Jaguars. And it's mind blowing to me that last week the Bills at home were closed 15 and a half points against the Dolphins, and now they're 14 and a half points on the road against the Jaguars. The Dolphins and the Jaguars are not in the same class. I'm sorry. I know that the Dolphins have not done well this season, but just look at their market number this week. They're 7.5 favorites against the Texans. That's fair. Maybe a little high, but that's realistically, that tells you where the Dolphins are in respect to the other, kind of dregs of the NFL right now. The Jacksonville Jaguars, if they cover this number, it's going to have to be a backdoor. And realistically, I think this sets up well for the Jags kind of quitting on their coach, and particularly on the defensive side of the ball.
You mentioned there regards coach. This is a typical game that coaching matters. McDermott against Urban Meyer. There's no contest here. And obviously Brian Daboll calling those plays as well. All right, we're out of time. That was good fun, guys. A lot of bets there, like we said. Insights.matchbook.com for a full recap of those on Wednesday evening. Don't forget also, if you're liking this content, you're watching us on YouTube, give us a thumbs up, click the subscribe button, and if you're listening to us on your preferred podcast app, please do leave us a preferential review. My thanks to Drew. My thanks to Suma. Rob will be back again next week. Same time, same bat place. Until then, goodbye for now.